The medical bay was quiet, except for the soft beeping of machines. Blue emergency lights painted everything in cold shadows. Ben Carter sat in a chair beside the bed, his eyes red from lack of sleep. He had not moved from this spot in 3 days. On the bed, Nina Voss lay still. Her breathing was shallow, and her skin was pale. Tubes connected her to machines that fought to keep her alive. A bandage covered the wound on her side where the plasma bolt had hit her. Ben watched her face. Even now, even like this, she was beautiful to him. He had never told her that. He had never told her many things. The door behind him opened with a soft hiss. Commander Lisa Park walked in, her boots clicking against the metal floor. She stopped beside Ben and looked down at Nina. "You need to sleep," Lisa said. Her voice was gentle but firm. "You have been here for 3 days. You are no good to her if you collapse." Ben shook his head slowly. "I cannot leave her." "Ben, the other medics can watch her. You trained them yourself." "I know." Ben's voice was barely above a whisper. "But I was not there when it happened. I was not there to protect her. The least I can do is be here now." Lisa sighed. She had known Ben for 5 years. She had never seen him like this. The calm, steady medic who never lost his focus was now a ghost of himself. She placed a hand on his shoulder, then turned and left without another word. Ben leaned forward and took Nina's hand. It was cold. He held it between both of his, trying to give her some warmth. He remembered the day they met. It was 4 years ago, on a supply station near the Outer Rim. She was a communications officer, fresh from training. He was already experienced, already tired from too many battles. But when she smiled at him, something changed. She had a way of making the darkness feel less heavy. They had served together ever since. Through battles and peace talks, through long nights and quiet mornings. They had saved each other more times than he could count. And through all of it, neither of them had ever said what they truly felt. There were moments when he almost told her. Late nights on the observation deck, watching stars drift by. Missions where they thought they might not survive. But the words always got stuck in his throat. He told himself there would be time. There was always tomorrow. Now, watching her fight for her life, he realized how foolish that was. The door opened again. This time, the visitor was not human. Kethril stood in the doorway. He was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. His people, the Valorians, had been at war with humans for decades. But now there was a ceasefire, fragile and uncertain. Kethril was an aide to the Valorian ambassador, secretly aboard the ship for peace negotiations. He stepped inside slowly, his movements careful and quiet. He studied Ben with curiosity, then looked at Nina. "The human female," Kethril said. His voice was soft and musical, the way all Valorian voices were. "She is the one who saved the child." Ben nodded without looking up. "Yes, 3 days ago, during a meeting on a neutral station, fighting had broken out. Hardliners on both sides had attacked. In the chaos, a Valorian child had been caught in the crossfire. Nina had run into the open, grabbed the child, and shielded her with her own body. The plasma bolt meant for the child had hit Nina instead. It was an act that made no sense to the Valorians. Humans and Valorians were enemies. Why would a human risk her life for a Valorian child? Kethril moved closer. He stood at the foot of the bed, watching Nina's face. "I do not understand," he said quietly. "She almost died for a child of her enemy. And now you sit here, refusing to leave her side. You have not eaten. You have not slept. Why?" Ben finally looked up. His eyes met Kethril's. "Because I love her," he said simply. Kethril tilted his head. "Love, we know this word. But we do not understand it the way humans seem to. For us, attachment is controlled. We do not allow it to consume us." Maybe that is your weakness, Ben said. There was no anger in his voice, just exhaustion and truth. Maybe the reason you do not understand us is because you have forgotten how to feel. Catherall did not respond. He simply watched, observing the human who sat vigil over his dying companion. Hours passed. The ship moved through the darkness of space, surrounded by stars that did not care about the small dramas happening inside. Ben held Nina's hand and refused to let go. Sometime after midnight, her condition changed. The machines began to beep faster. Nina's body tensed and her breathing became rapid and shallow. Ben jumped to his feet, checking the readings. Her fever was spiking. The infection from the wound was spreading. No, Ben whispered. No. Stay with me, Nina, please. He worked quickly, adjusting medications, trying everything he knew. But the alien bacteria in her wound was resistant to human medicine. The Valorian plasma bolts carried something their doctors did not fully understand. Nina's eyes moved beneath her closed lids. She was dreaming, or maybe having a nightmare. Her lips moved, forming words too quiet to hear. Ben leaned closer, his ear near her mouth. She was murmuring something. Broken words, scattered thoughts. He caught pieces of it. Fire. The child, run. She was reliving the attack. She was back on that station, running through plasma fire to save a child who was not even her own species. Then her voice changed. It became softer, more desperate. Don't, she whispered. Stop. Ben pulled back, his heart pounding. He stared at her face, trying to understand. Don't stop? He whispered. Or, don't stop. Was she telling him to keep fighting? Or was she telling him to let her go? Her hand tightened around his for just a moment, then went limp again. Her fever continued to rise. The machines screamed their warnings. Ben stood frozen, caught between hope and despair. He did not know what she meant. But as he watched her fade, something inside him hardened into steel dot. It did not matter what she meant. He was not going to stop. Ben moved through the medical bay like a man possessed. His hands shook from exhaustion, but his mind was sharp and clear. He pulled open drawers and cabinets, searching for equipment he had hoped he would never need to use. Dot behind him. The machines continued their warnings. Nina's fever had reached dangerous levels. Her body was losing the fight against the alien infection. Standard medicine was not working. Standard methods had failed. But Ben was not thinking about standard methods anymore. He found what he was looking for in a locked cabinet at the back of the room. A transfusion kit. Old technology, rarely used anymore. Most species in the galaxy had moved beyond such primitive techniques. But humans had kept the knowledge, passed it down through generations of military medics. There was a procedure. It was forbidden by galactic medical standards because it was too dangerous for most species. The donor had to give massive amounts of blood, enough to flood the patient's system with fresh antibodies. It worked because human blood carried something special, something that evolved on their harsh death world called Earth. Human immune systems were aggressive, violent, and relentless. They attacked foreign infections with a fury that other species could not match. But the cost was high. The donor would be left weak, possibly near death. For humans, recovery was possible. Their bodies could rebuild what was lost. But it took everything they had. Ben set up the equipment with steady hands. He did not hesitate. He did not think about the consequences. The door opened behind him. Catherall stood there, his dark eyes wide with confusion. "What are you doing?" the Valorian asked. Ben did not stop working. "Saving her. The machines say she is dying. Your medicine is not working. Your medicine is not working," Ben corrected. "Human medicine is different." Catherall stepped closer, watching Ben insert a needle into his own arm. The Valorian's confusion turned to alarm. "You are connecting yourself to her," Cathrall said. "You are giving her your own blood." "Yes, but the amount needed, you will have to give too much. You could die." Ben finally looked up. His eyes were calm, but there was fire behind them. "She told me to stop," he said quietly. "At least, I think that is what she meant. She said the words, and I think she was giving up, telling me to let her go." Cathrall shook his head slowly. "Then why do you continue? If she wishes to surrender to death, is that not her right?" Ben laughed. It was a hollow sound, filled with exhaustion and something that might have been love. "You really do not understand humans, do you?" He finished setting up the transfusion and sat down beside Nina's bed. "She might have told me to stop, but I will not. That is not how we love. When someone we care about gives up, we fight harder. When they fall, we carry them. When they tell us to leave them behind, we refuse." The transfusion began. Ben felt the pull immediately, the strange sensation of his life draining out of him and into her. He closed his eyes and focused on breathing. Cathrall watched in silence. He had seen many strange things in his dealings with humans. He had seen them fight against impossible odds. He had seen them sacrifice themselves for strangers. But this was different. This was not a battle. This was something more personal, more intimate. "Your species confuses me," Cathrall said softly. "You are violent and dangerous. You come from a world that tried to kill you every day. And yet, you are capable of this, of giving everything for one person." Ben opened his eyes. His face was already growing pale. "That is why we survived our world," he said. "Not because we were strong alone, but because we were strong together. Because we refused to let each other fall." Minutes passed. The machines began to show changes. Nina's fever was still high, but it had stopped climbing. Her body was responding to the flood of human antibodies, the aggressive immune cells that attacked the alien infection without mercy. But Ben was paying the price. His blood pressure dropped. His heart rate slowed. The machines connected to him began their own warnings. Cathrall moved toward the door. "I must tell your commander. You are dying." "No." Ben's voice was weak but firm. "If you stop this now, we both die. The connection has to complete." The Valorian hesitated. He looked at the human who was slowly fading, giving his life force to the woman he loved. It was madness. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. He stayed. An hour later, Commander Lisa Park burst through the door. Her face was pale with fury and fear. "What have you done?" she demanded. Ben could barely lift his head. "What I had to." Lisa rushed to the machines, checking readings. Her hands trembled as she saw the numbers. "You have given too much," she said. "Ben, you have given almost too much to survive. If I disconnect you now, we both die," Ben finished for her. "I know. So do not disconnect me." Lisa stood frozen, caught between her duty as a commander and her care for her crew. She wanted to scream at him, to shake him, to make him understand how foolish this was. But she also understood. She had seen the way he looked at Nina. She had seen the unspoken words between them, the feelings neither of them had been brave enough to voice. And she knew that if their positions were reversed, Nina would have done the same thing. "You stupid, brave fool," she whispered. Ben managed a weak smile. "That is the nicest thing you have ever said to me." The night continued. Outside the ship, the darkness of space stretched endlessly. Somewhere in that darkness, Valorian warships were gathering. The fragile ceasefire was breaking. War was coming again, but inside the medical bay, a different battle was being fought. A battle between life and death, between love and surrender. As the hours passed, Nina's readings began to improve. Her fever dropped. Her breathing steadied. The infection was losing ground against the human antibodies flooding her system, but Ben was fading. His skin had turned gray. His breathing was shallow and weak. He had given everything he had. Just before dawn, according to ship time, his eyes closed. His hand slipped from Nina's. The machines connected to him screamed their final warning dawn at the same moment. Nina's eyes opened. She blinked in the dim light, confused and weak. She saw the medical bay, the machines, the blue emergency lights. And then she saw Ben. He was slumped in the chair beside her, connected to her by tubes that carried what remained of his blood. He was not moving, Ben? She whispered. He did not answer. Nina tried to move, but her body was too weak. She could only watch as Commander Park and the medical team rushed in, working frantically to save the man who had given everything to save her. Tears ran down her face as she understood what he had done, and in that moment, she remembered what she had whispered in her fever dreams. Don't stop, she had said. She had been telling him to keep fighting for her. She had no idea that he would take it so literally. The medical team worked through the night. Commander Lisa Park stood at the edge of the room, watching them fight to save Ben Carter. Her hands were clenched into fists at her sides. Nina lay in her bed, too weak to move, but too awake to look away. She watched every moment, every desperate attempt to bring him back. The man who had given his blood to save her was now fighting for his own life. Come on, Lisa whispered. Come on, Ben. Do not give up now. Catherall stood in the corner, silent and still. He had witnessed many deaths in his long life. Valorians accepted death with dignity and calm. They did not fight against it the way humans did. But watching these humans refuse to let their friend go, he felt something stir inside him that he did not understand. After an hour that felt like a lifetime, the machines finally steadied. Ben's heart was still beating. His blood pressure was dangerously low, but stable. He had survived, barely. He needs rest, the lead medic said. Days of rest. Maybe weeks. He gave more than any human should be able to give and still live. Lisa nodded slowly. She walked to Ben's bed and looked down at his pale face. You stupid. Wonderful man, she said softly. Then she turned to Nina. The communications officer was crying silently, her eyes fixed on Ben. He is alive, Lisa told her. Thanks to you, and thanks to his own stubborn refusal to die. You are both going to be fine. Nina tried to speak, but her voice cracked. Lisa moved to her side and took her hand. I know, the commander said. You do not have to say anything. I know. The ship's alarm suddenly blared. Red lights flashed across the medical bay, cutting through the blue emergency glow. Lisa straightened immediately. What now? Her communicator buzzed. She answered it, and her face went pale. Commander, the voice on the other end said. The Zalorian warships have been detected at the edge of our sensor range. 5 of them. They are moving toward us. Lisa closed her eyes for a moment, gathering her strength. Then she opened them and became the commander again. I am on my way to the bridge. She looked at Nina, then at Ben, then at Catherall. Stay here, she told the Valorian. If your people are coming for blood, I need to know whose side you are on. Catherall met her eyes. I am here for peace, Commander. That has not changed. Lisa nodded once, then left the medical bay at a run. The hours that followed were tense and quiet. Nina drifted in and out of sleep, her body still recovering. But every time she woke, she looked first at Ben. He had not moved. He had not opened his eyes. But the machine said he was still alive, and that was enough. Catherall sat in the corner, thinking. He had been an observer of humans for many years. He had studied them, analyzed them, tried to understand them. But he was beginning to realize that understanding humans through observation was impossible. You had to experience them. You had to feel what they felt. He thought about what Ben had said. When someone we care about gives up, we fight harder. When they fall, we carry them. When they tell us to leave them behind, we refuse. It was illogical. It was inefficient. It went against every principle of Valorian philosophy. And yet, it was beautiful. Kethril stood and walked to Ben's bed. He looked down at the sleeping human. "I think I understand now," he said quietly, though he knew Ben could not hear him. "You do not love because it makes sense. You love because you cannot help it. And that love makes you do impossible things." He turned to Nina. Her eyes were open, watching him. "Your people are coming," she said. Her voice was weak but steady. "Are they coming to finish what they started?" Kethril sighed. "Some of them, yes. The hardliners. They were angry that you saved a Valorian child. They see it as an insult, as if human mercy is something to be ashamed of." Nina laughed softly. It hurt her wound, but she did not care. "That is the most foolish thing I have ever heard." "I agree." Kethril moved to the viewport and looked out at the stars. "But foolishness is not limited to any one species. We all have those who would choose pride over peace." Nina was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question that had been burning in her mind. "What did he think I said?" Kethril turned back to her. "What do you mean?" "Ben, you were here when he started the transfusion. He said something about what I told him. What did he think I said?" Kethril hesitated. Then he told her. "You whispered words in your fever. You said, 'Don't,' and then stop. He believed you were telling him to give up, to stop fighting for you." Nina's eyes filled with tears. No, that is not what I meant. I was dreaming about the attack. I was telling him not to stop fighting, not to give up on me." "I know," Kethril said gently. "I think, somewhere inside, he knew that too. But it did not matter to him. He told me that even if you were telling him to stop, he would not. Because that is not how humans love." Nina turned her head to look at Ben. He was so still, so pale. He had almost died for a misunderstanding. He had almost died because he loved her too much to let her go. "When he wakes up," she said quietly, "I'm going to tell him everything. Every feeling I have been too afraid to say. I am not going to waste any more time." Kethril nodded. "I hope you get that chance." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Because outside the ship, 5 Valorian warships were getting closer. And they were not coming for peace. Hours passed. Nina forced herself to stay awake, watching over Ben the way he had watched over her. She held his hand, cold and limp, and refused to let go. She talked to him, even though he could not hear her. "Do you remember the first time we met?" she said. "You were so serious. All business. I thought you were cold. But then I saw you with the wounded soldiers, the way you cared for them, and I knew I was wrong. You were not cold. You just kept your warmth hidden." She squeezed his hand. "I should have told you then. I should have told you so many times. But I was afraid. Afraid of losing what we had. Afraid of making things complicated." She laughed sadly. "Look at us now. Nothing could be more complicated than this." The ship shuddered. Nina looked up, alarmed. The Valorian warships had arrived. On the bridge, Commander Lisa Park faced the view screen. 5 Valorian warships hung in the darkness like predators waiting to strike. "Attention, human vessel." The voice came through the communication system, cold and sharp. "You are harboring a criminal, the female human who interfered in our affairs. Surrender her, and you may leave." Lisa's jaw tightened. "I will not surrender any member of my crew. Then you will all die." Lisa looked at her crew. They were scared. but they were determined. They were human. "No," she said quietly. "I do not think we will." The standoff had begun. Nina heard the Valorian commander's threat through the ship's internal speakers. She heard Lisa's refusal to surrender, and she knew that everyone on this ship was about to die because of her. She looked at Ben, still unconscious beside her. He had almost killed himself to save her. She would not let his sacrifice be for nothing. With great effort, she pushed herself up from the bed. Pain shot through her wound, but she ignored it. She pulled the monitoring cables from her body. The machines began to beep an alarm, but she did not care. Catherall moved toward her. "What are you doing? You cannot stand. You are too weak." "Watch me," Nina said through gritted teeth. She swung her legs over the side of the bed. The floor felt cold against her bare feet. She stood slowly, holding onto the bed for support. Her legs trembled, threatening to give out, but she did not fall. She took one step, then another. Each movement was agony, but she kept going because she had to. Because if she did not do something, everyone she cared about would die. Catherall moved to her side, offering his arm for support. She looked at him with surprise. "Why are you helping me?" The Valorian was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Because I have seen what humans do for each other. I want to understand it. And I cannot understand it if you are all dead." Nina almost smiled. She took his arm, and together they walked out of the medical bay. The corridors of the ship were bathed in red alert lights. Crew members rushed past them, preparing for a battle they could not win. A medical frigate against 5 warships. The odds were impossible, but Nina had learned something from Ben. Impossible odds meant nothing to humans. They reached the bridge. The doors opened, and Lisa turned in shock. "Nina? What are you doing here? You should be in bed." Nina leaned against the doorframe, breathing hard. "I could not let you have all the fun, Commander." Lisa started to argue, but Nina raised her hand. "Please, let me try something. If it does not work, you can court-martial me later." Lisa stared at her for a long moment. Then she stepped aside from the communications console. "It is your funeral. Maybe all of ours." Nina walked slowly to the console, supported by Catherall. She activated the wideband transmitter, the one that would broadcast her words to every ship in the area, human and Valorian alike. "This is Lieutenant Nina Voss," she said. Her voice was weak, but clear. "I am the human you are looking for, the one who saved the Valorian child." She paused, gathering her strength. "I know why you are angry. I know you see what I did as an insult. A human saving a Valorian, like we think you cannot take care of your own. But that is not why I did it." On the Valorian flagship, the commando listened. His crew listened. Across all 5 warships, thousands of Valorians heard her words. "I saved that child because she was scared," Nina continued. She was alone in the middle of a firefight, crying for her mother. "I did not see a Valorian. I did not see an enemy. I saw a child. And where I come from, you do not leave children to die. Not ever. Not for any reason." She leaned heavily on the console, her strength fading. "You want to kill me for that? Fine, kill me. But before you do, ask yourselves something. Ask yourselves if you would have done the same thing for a human child. Ask yourselves if you could have walked past a crying baby, no matter what species she was." Silence. The Valorian ships hung motionless in space, weapons still aimed at the tiny human frigate. Nina turned to Catherall. "Tell them," she said quietly. "Tell them what you saw." Catherall hesitated for only a moment. Then he stepped forward to the communications console. "This is Catherall, aide to Ambassador Voron," he said. "I have been aboard this human ship. I have witnessed things that I cannot explain." His voice grew stronger as he spoke. I watched a human man give his own blood to save this woman. He gave so much that he almost died. When I asked him why, he said it was because he loved her. I did not understand at first, but now I think I do. He looked at Nina, then back at the view screen. Humans do not love the way we do. They do not keep their hearts under control. They love wildly, desperately, dangerously. They would die for each other without hesitation. They would fight the entire galaxy for a single person they care about. He paused. And they would risk their lives for a child. Any child. Even the child of their enemy. Not because it makes sense, but because that is simply who they are. The silence stretched on. On the Valorian flagship, crew members exchanged glances. Many of them had children of their own. Many of them were thinking about what they would do if the situation were reversed. Finally, the Valorian commander spoke. "You ask if we would save a human child." His voice was hard, but there was something beneath it. Something uncertain. "Yes," Nina said. "I am asking." More silence. On the Valorian ships, the weapons remained armed. The crews waited for the order to fire. The commander closed his eyes. He thought about his own daughter, safe at home on their world. He thought about what he would feel if she were lost and afraid, surrounded by enemies. He thought about what he would want someone to do. "Stand down," he said quietly. His crew stared at him in disbelief. "Commander?" "I said stand down." His voice was stronger now. "Power down weapons. Hold position." On the human frigate, the bridge crew watched in shocked silence as the Valorian weapons powered down one by one. Lisa let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. Nina's legs finally gave out. She collapsed, but Kethrol caught her before she hit the floor. "You did it," he said, amazement in his voice. "You actually did it." Nina managed a weak smile. "I just told them the truth. Sometimes that is enough." The Valorian commander's voice came through the speakers again. "Human vessel, this is Commander Thelvin. I am standing down. You may continue your mission." Lisa stepped forward to the communications console. "Thank you, Commander. May I ask what changed your mind?" There was a long pause. When Thelvin spoke again, his voice was different, softer. "I have a daughter," he said. "She is 7 years old. And I realized that if she were lost among humans, I would want someone to save her, regardless of what species they were." Lisa nodded slowly, even though he could not see her. "Then maybe there is hope for peace after all." "Maybe," Thelvin agreed. "Maybe there is." Nina lay in Kethrol's arms, barely conscious. But she was smiling. Ben would have been proud of her. She hoped she would get to tell him that when he woke up. 1 week had passed since that night. The medical bay was quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet now. Not the tense silence of crisis, but the peaceful calm of recovery. Sunlight from a nearby star filtered through the viewport, casting warm golden light across the room. Ben Carter lay in his bed, still pale but growing stronger each day. The doctor said he was lucky to be alive. He had given more blood than any human should be able to give and still survive. But humans were stubborn creatures, and Ben was perhaps the most stubborn of them all. Nina sat in the chair beside him. She had barely left his side since she returned from the bridge. She slept in that chair, ate in that chair, and spent every waking moment watching his face for signs of awakening. On the 5th day, his eyes opened. At first, he did not know where he was. The ceiling was unfamiliar, the light too bright. Then he turned his head and saw her. "Nina?" His voice was barely a whisper, rough from days of disuse. She leaned forward, tears already forming in her eyes. "I am here," she said. "I am right here." Ben tried to remember what had happened. The memories came back slowly, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. Nina's fever. Her whispered words. The transfusion. The darkness. "You are alive," he said. It was not a question. It was a statement of wonder. "Thanks to you." Nina took his hand and held it tight. "You saved me, Ben. You gave me your blood. You almost died." Ben closed his eyes for a moment. "I heard you say something. In your fever. You said, 'Don't stop.' At least, I thought you said, 'Don't,' and then 'stop.' I thought you were telling me to give up on you." Nina shook her head, the tears now falling freely down her cheeks. No, that is not what I meant. I was dreaming about the attack. I was telling you not to stop fighting. Not to stop fighting for me." Ben opened his eyes again. A small smile crossed his pale face. "I know. I think I knew somewhere deep inside. But it did not matter." He squeezed her hand. "Even if you were telling me to stop, I would not have listened. I could not. Not when it came to you." Nina laughed through her tears. "That is the most stubborn, foolish, wonderful thing anyone has ever done for me. I have been told I am too stubborn for my own good. You are, and I love you for it." The words hung in the air between them. Words that had been waiting years to be spoken. Words that had almost come too late. Ben's eyes widened slightly. "You love me?" Nina nodded. "I have loved you for years, Ben. I was just too afraid to say it. Too afraid of what might happen if things changed between us. But after what you did, after watching you almost die for me, I cannot be afraid anymore. I will not waste any more time." Ben reached up with his other hand and touched her face gently. His fingers brushed away her tears. "I love you too," he said. "I think I have loved you since the day we met. I just never thought, I never believed someone like you could feel the same way about someone like me." Nina laughed again. "Someone like me?" "Ben, you are the kindest, bravest person I have ever known. You ran into danger to save people you had never met. You spent 3 days refusing to leave my side. You gave your own blood to keep me alive. If anyone is unworthy here, it is me." "Then maybe we are both unworthy," Ben said. "Or maybe we are perfect for each other. Maybe we are." She leaned down and kissed him softly. It was a gentle kiss, careful of his weakness. But it held years of unspoken feeling, years of waiting and hoping and fearing. When she pulled back, they were both smiling. The door opened. Commander Lisa Park and Catherall entered together. Lisa's stern face softened when she saw them. "Well," she said, "it looks like Sleeping Beauty finally woke up." Ben tried to sit up but winced at the effort. Nina gently pushed him back down. "Rest," she said. "You have been asleep for a week. Your body needs time." Catherall moved closer, studying Ben with those large, dark eyes. "You are a remarkable being," the Valorian said. "I have studied humans for many years, but I have never understood you until now. What changed?" Ben asked. "I watched you die for love," Catherall said simply. "And then I watched your people face death for the same reason. When those warships came, your crew did not surrender. Your commander refused to give up a single person." And then he looked at Nina. "This woman dragged herself from her sickbed to talk to my people. She asked them a simple question, and that question changed everything." Ben looked at Nina with surprise. "What question?" Nina smiled. "I asked them if they would save a human child the way I saved a Valorian child. That is all. And it worked?" Catherall nodded. "It worked because it forced them to see themselves in you. For the first time, they understood that humans are not just violent creatures from a death world. You are parents and children. You are lovers and friends. You feel the same things we feel, even if you express them differently." Lisa stepped forward. "The Valorian commander Thelvin has returned to his fleet. He is speaking to their council now, arguing for real peace talks." Catherall has been asked to serve as the liaison. Catherall inclined his head. It is an honor I never expected. One night changed everything. One human's choice to save a child. Another human's choice to save the one he loved. These small acts of mercy and sacrifice have done more for peace than decades of diplomacy. Ben lay back against his pillow, overwhelmed. All I did was refuse to let her go, he said quietly. That is exactly what you did, Catherall said. And that is why humans terrify us. Not because you fight so fiercely, but because you love so completely. Over the next few weeks, things changed throughout the galaxy. The story of the human medical frigate spread from ship to ship, planet to planet. People heard about the communications officer who saved an enemy child, and the medic who gave his blood to save her dot. It became a symbol. A new understanding. The peace talks began in earnest. For the first time in decades, humans and Valorians sat at the same table without weapons drawn. There were setbacks and arguments, moments when war seemed close again. But every time things got difficult, someone would remember that night. They would remember Nina running through plasma fire to save a crying child. They would remember Ben refusing to give up on the woman he loved. They would remember that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is not fight, but love. 6 months later, Nina and Ben stood together on the observation deck of a new ship. A diplomatic vessel, part of the joint human-Valorian peacekeeping fleet. Nina leaned against Ben's shoulder. They watched the stars drift past, distant suns that no longer felt so cold. Do you ever think about that night? She asked. Every day, Ben said. I think about how close I came to losing you. And I think about how grateful I am that I did not. Nina smiled. I think about what you said, that even if I told you to stop, you would not have listened. I meant it. I know you did. That is what makes it so wonderful. She turned to face him. We were saying the same thing all along. You thought I was telling you to give up. I was telling you to keep fighting. But in the end, it did not matter, because we both meant the same thing. Ben nodded. Do not stop loving me. Never stop loving you. Nina reached up and touched his face. That is something I could never do. Behind them, through the viewport, a Valorian ship passed by. Its lights blinked in greeting. A simple gesture that would have been impossible a year ago. That night had changed everything. Not through weapons or war. Not through grand speeches or political agreements. Through love. Through sacrifice. Through the simple human refusal to give up on the people who matter. And somewhere, in a Valorian archive, Catherall's report was being read by millions. We believed humans were dangerous because they fight. We were wrong. They are dangerous because they refuse to stop. Not in war, but in love. That night, one man's misunderstanding showed us what humanity truly is. And we will never see them the same way again.